Hi there, my name is Dawn. I'm one of the dietitians here at Progressive Medical, and today I'm going to give you an overview of our detox diet, which should help decrease some inflammation from your system by taking out some common inflammatory foods, as well as hopefully give you some good ideas for just some healthy, clean meals. Now, before we talk about food, one of the most important things is actually staying well hydrated. So we do want you to drink approximately half your body weight in ounces of water each day. So if you weigh 160 pounds, for example, we'd like you to drink 80 fluid ounces. This water should be not straight tap water, some clean filtered source. Also, please try to avoid drinking out of plastic. We would prefer drinking out of glass or stainless steel, as unfortunately, chemicals in the plastic can start to leach into your water, causing some hormone disruptions. As far as food is concerned, we're going to talk about the foods you can have before the ones that you can't. Proteins, animal proteins, there's really no restriction as far as type is concerned. You can do chicken, you can do fish, turkey, beef, lamb, bison, truly whatever type that you like. We just ask that nothing be breaded, so grilled, broiled, baked without some sort of flour coating. Typically that flour coating is wheat flour, and we are going to be taking wheat out as part of the gluten family. We also ask that if it's possible budget-wise to do organic. It would be wonderful to buy all of your food organic, and which can get expensive. So if you are going to prioritize your organic budget, we feel very strongly that the animal products be at the top of that priority list. Just so you're not getting the hormones and antibiotics that unfortunately can be found in a lot of just conventional animal products. Now, as far as organic is concerned, the labels that you're looking for on things like chicken, poultry, turkey, you want to see the words organic. Beef, grass-fed would be amazing. When it comes to fish, you want to look for wild-caught versus farm-raised. So those are some of the words you want to look for on those packages. Now, as far as vegetables are concerned, also really no restriction as far as type, of course. You're welcome to have any type of vegetable that you like. On your salads, we ask that you do more of an oil-based salad dressing versus a creamy dressing. The creamy dressings like ranch, blue cheese, Caesar, unfortunately have dairy in them, and we are removing dairy as part of this plan. But there's so many great vinaigrette and Italian-style dressings out that have very clean ingredient lists that I think you'll like. Stores like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Earth Fare, Sprouts, the health food section of good Kroger's. Also great farmers markets will really have a nice selection of some natural salad dressings, really, as well as all the foods we're going to talk about. Those are some of the best stores to go to. It's also very easy to make your own salad dressing, especially these days. There's such a beautiful selection of flavor-infused olive oils and vinegars, things like oils infused with blood orange and cilantro lime that make really nice dressings that you don't have to add a lot of ingredients to. Now, as far as cooked vegetables are concerned, again, no restriction on type. We just ask, as far as prep, that you avoid microwaving or boiling at all, or at least for long periods of time, as unfortunately you're going to lose a lot of nutrition that way. Quick steam, stir fry, saute would really be best. You retain some good color and some good crunch that way. Now, as far as healthy fats are concerned, things like nuts, seeds, avocados, good oils, almost no restrictions here. We are going to remove peanuts and peanut butter. Peanuts are really not classified as a nut anyway. They're in the legume family, but we eat them. We think of them that way. Peanuts, unfortunately, can be quite moldy the way they're grown and stored, so we'd prefer you put those aside for now. Things like, though, almonds, almond butter, cashews, cashew butter. There's so many other great nuts and seeds out there. Of course, all your walnuts and pecans and macadamia nuts. If you're a big peanut butter fan, sunflower seed butter is fantastic. It's probably one of the closest tasting and textured nut butters or seed butters to peanut butter. Even little kids tend to like it, which is a good sign. Avocado is another healthy fat that we like in your diet, as far as putting them in your smoothies, on your salads, even just eating them by themselves with a little sea salt is really quite good. Now, oils. When it comes to oils that you're cooking with, we do recommend some really nice high heat stable oils, very healthy oils as well, like coconut and avocado oils. Now, olive oil is amazing, wonderful for those salads, but not overly heat stable at higher temperatures. So we'd prefer that for cold stuff, and then the coconut and the avocado oil when it comes to your cooking. Now, unfortunately, things like canola and veggie oils can also be heat stable, but they're really not very good oils. Canola is also unfortunately one of these genetically modified crops these days that we would really love you to steer clear of completely. When it comes to sweeteners, our preferred sweetener is definitely stevia, a nice plant-based sweetener, low calorie, low carb, comes in both powder and liquid forms. The more common one that you see is powder, and if you've tried that and not been too happy with it, give the liquid a try. A lot of patients find that it has less of an aftertaste, so definitely worth checking out. The biggest thing with us when it comes to sweeteners is avoiding artificial sweeteners. Things like Splenda, Equal, Sweet and Low, we really definitely want you to steer clear of completely. When you're looking at an ingredient list, you will see the words aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. That's what you're wanting to steer clear of. Just chemicals, toxins that are really quite awful for you. You can also use things like cinnamon, nutmeg, some honey if we're not doing a low carb diet, as far as some natural sweeteners as well. But stevia, again, is our preferred source if you need one. Now, as far as the foods that we are removing at this point that can cause inflammation throughout your system, gluten and dairy are the two big ones. All that gluten is a naturally occurring protein found in certain grains. Wheat is going to be the most common of that group because, of course, wheat is found in most of your breads, cereals, pastas, baked goods, things like that. There's other grains in the gluten family too, things like bulgur and barley, spelt, rye, some things that you might not have had before, like camu and some more ancient grains. Oats you will traditionally see listed as part of the gluten family, even though oats don't truly contain gluten. Oats actually get easily contaminated as far as where they're grown. So if you enjoy oatmeal, you're welcome to have it. We just want to make sure that you're purchasing a certified gluten-free oat. And when it comes to oatmeal in general, even the certified gluten-free ones you can unfortunately find instant and flavored. Please try not to get those. Get one that you cook on the stovetop for at least a few minutes. Now when it comes to wheat, obviously of that category of grains that I just mentioned, wheat is the most common. Just because it does come in all those foods that we just mentioned, the breads and cereals. Wheat is also, unfortunately, a cheap filler. So whenever you pick up a packaged food, always check for wheat. It's just a cheap, easy filler that companies utilize often. When you look at an ingredient list, you're really not looking for the word gluten, because gluten is naturally occurring in a whole bunch of grains. And the ingredient list, of course, needs to be more specific. Wheat is usually the one that's going to be put in if something is. Now, we'd love you to avoid as much processed food as possible, which will eliminate a lot of that wheat filler issue, but life gets busy and sometimes you got to grab something quick, but just be cautious when you do. Now, as far as the gluten-free grains, there's a lot of great ones out there, and the healthiest of the group, things like brown rice, wild rice, sweet potatoes, quinoa, any type of beans or lentils that you enjoy, those are really the ones that we'd love you to do the most. As far as other gluten-free grains, things like white rice, white potato, corn, yes, by the book they are gluten-free, but they're just nowhere near as nutrient-dense, as fiber-rich as some of those other ones that I mentioned, like the quinoa and the sweet potatoes. So you can have them, but really keep them minimized. Corn, unfortunately, is one of these genetically modified crops. Again, kind of like the white rice, white potato, not as nutrient-dense. They all actually have a higher glycemic index than those good ones that I mentioned first, which can fluctuate your blood sugar up and down, causing some issues with energy and mood and concentration. So they're really not great to have in general, but if you do have a little corn here and there, it is really important to get 100% organic, so you're eliminating that GMO issue. As far as gluten-free products are concerned, it's hard to miss them these days. They're all over the place. The thing is, even though they're gluten-free, they're still processed foods, and like I kind of mentioned before, we'd really love you to focus on whole, unprocessed, unpackaged foods. You just get so much more nutrition, more fiber, and you're more satisfied by a whole food versus a packaged food as far as probably the amount of food that you'd be eating. Keep it as whole and unpackaged as possible. Again, life gets busy. If you do have to grab something, now there's a huge amount of gluten-free products to choose from, breads, cereals, pastas, etc. The healthiest of this group, I would say for sure, are the gluten-free crackers and the gluten-free cereals, especially the hut cereals like that gluten-free oat that I mentioned. The gluten-free crackers and hut cereals tend to have a really short ingredient list, maybe just 2 to 5, 2 to 6 things. You never want to see that huge list of ingredients. That's not all real food. Definitely, the shorter the list, the better, and especially a shorter list that you actually recognize the ingredients, those words, as food. Things like rice, flax, cinnamon. Unfortunately, when that list gets huge, you start to see a lot of words that you don't recognize as food, and that's really never a good sign. Now, as far as eating out is concerned, there's actually a lot of great restaurants that have gluten-free menus. If you go on restaurants' websites, we can give you a list of restaurants, and that's great. If you're at a restaurant that has a gluten-free menu, use it. Now, just because there's a gluten-free menu doesn't mean that everything on that menu is healthy. There could very well be gluten-free pizza, which of course is still pizza. Try to do more of your grilled chicken, your steak, your roasted salmon, baked salmon, things like that. Those would really be your best choices off that type of menu. Now, if you're someplace that doesn't have a gluten-free menu, just make the best decision that you can right now. Again, those similar types of entrees, the grilled meats, salad, veggie. A lot of restaurants have sweet potatoes and quinoa now, which is wonderful. Now, could there be a wheat filler on the marinade, on the chicken, if you're not ordering off a gluten-free menu? Yes, there could. Again, do the best you can when you're out. Once we get a little bit more lab work back on you, we'll know how careful you need to be in some of those situations. So we'll talk about that further individually. The hardest meals, I think, to eat out will probably be breakfast and fast food. Fast food is kind of a nightmare. Hopefully we can get you to avoid that as much as possible. And really there's just not a whole lot of choices going on there for you. You're really kind of stuck with a grilled chicken salad, no cheese, no croutons, just with some olive oil. That's really your best bet there. When it comes to going out for breakfast, unfortunately, a traditional breakfast menu is going to be mostly gluten. It's going to be pancakes and waffles and biscuits and stuff like that. You can do eggs. Eggs and dairy are separate proteins, even though we are taking out cow's milk dairy with this plan. Eggs are fine. So you could do a scrambled egg dish or a vegetable omelet. Something like that would be wonderful. I think most of us don't find ourselves out for breakfast too terribly often, so it probably won't come up too much. Now, when it comes to dairy, that is the other main kind of category we take out, as it can be a common inflammatory food. Right now it is just cow's milk dairy that we're removing. So if you like it and it doesn't bother you, you can do goat or sheep dairy, which are both amazing. There's all kinds of goat and sheep milk cheeses out on the market. A lot of people, when they think of goat cheese, they just think feta, but there's so much more now. There's goat bries, goat cheddars, goat goudas. There's all kinds of soft kind of log goat cheeses infused with different herbs and fruits. They're really quite tasty. So try some of those if you're interested, if you really love cheese and you think you're going to miss it. If you're not crazy about the goat, sheep dairy products are a little harder to find. There's not as much variety out there, but they do tend to be a little bit more mild, especially when it comes to yogurt. Even if we have people who enjoy goat cheese, we actually find that some of those people don't love the goat yogurt so much. It is a little stronger than the yogurt that they're used to. A sheep's milk yogurt, if you can find it, is amazing. It's really mild, really creamy, more like your Greek-style cow's milk yogurt with that high protein content too. It's just hard to find. Even sometimes places like Whole Foods don't have it. Now, those are some alternative animal dairy products to cow. If you want to just kind of clean slate animal dairy altogether, there's so many really great non-animal dairy alternatives on the market that you might have seen or even tried before. Things like almond milk, coconut milk, cashew milk. I would say those three milk alternatives are probably the most popular ones out there. Really good tasting, textured, and they're very available in all the grocery stores these days. There's plenty of other ones too, though, if you don't care for those. There's rice milk, hemp milk, flax milk, all kinds of milks. And the only one we'd prefer you not do milk alternative-wise, or really alternative-wise in general, are soy-based milk alternatives or processed soy products. Unfortunately, soy can negatively impact thyroid function. It can also disrupt hormone regulation by mimicking estrogen in your system. So it's not something that we want most of our patients doing. Also, when it comes to some non-animal milk alternatives, there's plenty of vegan cheeses. You know, if you weren't crazy about the goat or sheep cheeses, or you just, again, wanted something non-animal based, There are some rice-based cheeses. There's also some soy ones, which I'd rather you not do. The rice ones, probably the most popular brand is a brand called Daya, but there's also a newer almond milk line out called Kite Hill. Very artisan-like cheeses that places like Whole Foods will carry that look very interesting. As far as other milk products, coffee creamer I know is a big topic. Now we are actually removing alcohol completely as well as caffeine completely. If you cannot remove caffeine completely until we get you feeling a little better as far as energy and sleep, one normal sized serving, 1 cup of something caffeinated is okay when it comes to like coffee or tea. If it's tea, most people don't need a milk, or they can get away with just a little bit of almond or coconut milk in there. Coffee though, if you do need 1 serving of caffeinated coffee per day, until again we get you feeling a little better. So Delicious is a company that makes a great line of almond and coconut milk creamers that have almost the texture of half and half. Unfortunately in coffee, almond milk, coconut milk is for a lot of people kind of like putting white water in there, so the creamers are a little bit better. Also, lastly on the dairy, butter is actually okay to have. Even though butter is part of the dairy family, it's predominantly milk fat, and we are going after the milk protein, the milk sugar, the 2 more inflammatory parts of that dairy, neither of which are in butter with enough quantity to really cause any problems for the majority of our patients. Now we would prefer that butter to be organic from grass-fed cows, or you could actually do ghee as well. Now if you feel that butter is even bothersome to you, a lot of our patients will use coconut oil in many places where they would use butter, so that's an option as well. Like I mentioned, alcohol and caffeine are removed. Now when it comes to coffee, if you feel that you can go without any coffee, caffeinated coffee, that would be wonderful. If you get into decaf coffee, it's actually very important that you buy organic, water processed decaf. Unfortunately, decaf coffee goes through several chemical steps to get the caffeine out. So we don't want you getting extra chemicals in your system trying to avoid caffeine. So somewhere on that package of that decaf coffee, it needs to specifically state water processed or Swiss water processed. Just saying naturally decaffeinated really doesn't mean that much. Now, we will also be giving you a listing of produce items called the Dirty Dozen Clean 15. This is a nice indication of where your money is better spent when it comes to buying organic produce. Again, when it comes to your organic budget, the top priority is your animal products. But if you're going to buy some organic produce, you can go by this listing that we'll be giving you just to see where your money is better spent. So the Dirty Dozen items, these are a list of produce items that unfortunately have thinner skins or just more delicate items. So when a chemical pesticide is sprayed, unfortunately it's absorbed very well into the food, nothing we can wash off. So our exposure to those chemicals is going to be greater. So those are the ones where your money is definitely better spent when it comes to buying organic. Things like certain berries, celery, spinach, you will find on this list. Now the Clean 15, the list of, these are a little bit more hardy items or items that we peel kind of a nice sturdy outer covering off, like an avocado for example. You know, the food is a bit more protected from any sprays so that our exposure will be less. So these, if you want to buy them organic, that would be great, but if you are prioritizing your budget, this is where you can not buy organic and just buy the conventional route and feel comfortable doing so. Another list that we're going to give you is something called glycemic index. And this is a nice way to choose healthier carbohydrate-based foods. You will see low, moderate, and high glycemic index choices, glycemic index being a measure of how foods affect your blood sugar. Now, when your blood sugar is in a more optimized state, you should feel better. Your mood, your energy, your concentration, even your metabolism should be better. When your blood sugar is up and down all over the place, unfortunately those things are going to be all over the place as well. You will see primarily, again, carbohydrate-related foods on this list. You will not see a piece of chicken. You will not see olive oil. Things that are pure protein or pure fat in nature don't give your blood sugar that spiky effect that unfortunately a carbohydrate sometimes can. The low and moderate glycemic index foods are where you want to stay. Things like sweet potatoes, brown rice, apples, berries, those are some examples of grains and fruits that have a low to moderate glycemic index. Great choices. The high glycemic index stuff like your white rice, your white potato, your corn, fruits like bananas, dried fruits, fruit juices, things that are very concentrated sweet or those white grains, unfortunately can give you those big spikes up and down in blood sugar, causing mood, energy, metabolism not to be where it should be. Now, We do want you to stay with those low and moderate choices when you are having carbohydrates as much as possible. Again, life happens, gets busy. If you're stuck somewhere and you're somewhat forced, so to say, to have a higher glycemic index food, you're at someone else's home and white rice is being served, having some protein or fat with that meal, making sure there's some chicken, some fish, something healthy fat-based, some avocado will actually help slow that sugar release of the white rice down. Doesn't make it into a low glycemic index food, but it does help. Of course, really the best way around that is just skipping the white rice, just focusing on the proteins and the vegetables as much as possible. We are also going to include some sample menus. Nothing you have to follow, just a guide. I think it's always nice to see an example of what a day would look like as far as breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, just so you can feel a little more comfortable with it. That is about it for me on our detox eating plan. If you have any questions on this, you can contact any of the dietitians here at Progressive. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to seeing you in the office.